in January to the recent coverage and aftermath of the George Floyd verdict. And of course, all of that at a time when we're continuing to confront diversity and equity issues, as well as fighting for freedom of the press. Our own VP of broadcast, Julio Cesar Chavez, was hit with a tear gas canister while covering the Brooklyn Center protest. Thankfully, he's okay. But it's a testament to him and all of our other members who have been out there in the trenches fighting the fight to keep our communities informed. We've been busy at work for the last quarter, the board. I'm pleased to announce that all of our financials are now easily available on our website. This includes our 990s going back to 2012 and our audits dating back to 2014. You'll also find all of our board minutes dating back to 2016. It's a big deal for us because many on this board ran on the issue of transparency. So we're really happy that it can now easily be found in one spot on our website. And I want to thank our treasurer, Kelly Ortiz, who really spearheaded this effort. And I encourage all of our members to review our financials and see for yourself that NAHJ is in excellent financial health, thanks to our ED, Alberto Mendoza. And some more good news, our group is growing by leaps and bounds. We're at a historic high of 3,431 members. I firmly believe that our growth is a reflection of our members' commitment, communities that they serve. And I also think it shows a desire to be a part of something bigger that can really make a difference, like NAHJ. So I'm really heartened to see that, and I hope that it translates into increased engagement from our members with our mission. We held a retreat in February where we fine-tuned our goals, and we created some committees that we hope are going to capitalize on that engagement and lay the groundwork for a plan of action that will lead not only to more Latinos in news, but more Latinos in positions of power in newsrooms across the country. Our VP for print, Arelis, she'll tell you more about those committees and how you can get involved a little later. But I want to point out how excited I am that among the committees we've revived is the Strategic Planning Committee. Yes, we're in good shape now, but we need to keep marching successfully forward. So my hope is to get a good cross-section of our members from across platforms and regions to really formulate a strong and sound plan that will ensure our continued success. In addition to those committees in March, wait a minute, did I get started too quickly? I jumped way ahead on our agenda, didn't I?
Yeah, and Jessica is having problems getting in. I don't know if BA can help her. Jessica is, I don't know if she registered. I don't know what, she's texting me.
Folks, I'm so sorry. I jumped straight. I thought I was pulling up the agenda and I jumped straight into my talking points. I'll come back to those. And let's start at the beginning. I'm so very sorry. We'll start with the roll call.
Okay.
Blanca.
Hello, everybody. So starting off with Nora. Lopez.
Presente. Getting ahead of herself.
Julio Cesar Chavez.
Hey, I'm present.
Yvette Cabrera.
Here.
Arelis Hernandez.
Wepa.
Galdi Ortiz.
Aquí.
Jennifer Marcelo Casio.
Here.
Macnelly Torres.
Here.
Luis Joel Mendez Gonzalez.
Presente.
And we got our regional directors, Jamie Stockwell.
I'm here.
Melissa Makaya.
Here and present.
Alwyn Lopez. I think she's working. Nanette Sosa. Thought I saw her.
She's here. She just doesn't have sound.
Okay. Valerie Juarez. Is she here? She might be working. I think she emailed us. Johnny Cordova.
He's here. I just let him in to the room. He's here.
Christy Fajardo.
Here.
And and I know that Jessica Ortiz is here. She is the shift sound.
She's here too.
Sorry. And then Alberto Mendoza, our executive
Here.
director. And then, did I miss any board members? Because I'm about to, I think I got everybody. As far as our guests, our staff members, we have BA,
Here.
Leslie Ann. I think I see her picture. Yunwen, who is taking care of everything, and Yanet. So, I think that's it. Did I miss anyone?
She's in.
Presente. Presente.
Here. Tony's here.
Great.
All right, approval of last board meeting minutes.
Yes, those should have been sent out to everyone. Can I move to approve the February 4th minutes?
I'll second.
Yvette? Okay.
Is there any discussion on the motion of our last board meeting? Okay, then all those in favor of approving the minutes? I don't think we need a roll call vote. I think a simple yay will suffice. All those in favor?
Yay.
Hey,
Any opposition? Blanca, I think it was unanimously approved.
Got it.
Okay, so now we move on to the president's report. I apologize, in my haste, I got ahead of myself. This is kind of nerve-wracking, guys, talking to people in these type of settings, and I had made some talking points and got way ahead of myself. But I wanted to continue talking about some of the work that we've been doing this last quarter. The board met for a retreat, and I think we came up with some really good committees that I think are really going to keep us moving forward and hold that momentum that we have right now. In March, members of the NAHJ board held the first meeting of the Investigative and Data Journalism Task Force. This was a meeting that included 24 journalists, including board members McNally Torres, Yvette Cabrera, Christy Fajardo, Jessica Redis, and Luis Joel Mendez Gonzalez, who represent all platforms. The group held a 2-hour discussion where they addressed the lack of diversity in our industry and especially how to increase the number of Latinos producing investigative and data reporting, and also Latinos leading teams as managers. We have been historically underrepresented in these areas across newsrooms and media platforms. And the task force mission is to change that by creating programs and searching for solutions that we hope will eventually provide more opportunities for Latinos to move into management, to lead investigative teams, and also to produce watchdog and data reporting to inform our communities. I also want to point out the hard work of the board's rapid response team. NAHJ continues to advocate that news outlets reflect the communities they serve and for a free press. And this team is responsible for deciding and writing which issues we weigh in on. So anytime you see a public statement from NAHJ, know that it was authored and discussed in depth by the rapid response team, which consists of board members McNally Torres, the chair, Christy Fajardo, Yvette Cabrera, and myself. It wasn't my design, but initially it was all Latinas, Las Chingonas, but more recently, VP of Broadcast, Julio Cesar, has joined the team as we tackle the issue of discrimination of Latinos at TEGNA-owned broadcast stations. In fact, members of the rapid response team met with TEGNA officials, Grady Tribb, who's their chief diversity and inclusion officer, and Eric Valadez, who's a corporate content executive member of their team. We met with them to discuss concerns raised in a column written by a former KUSA employee, Lori Lizarraga. After Lori's op-ed was published, we heard from many current and former TEGNA employees, and not just those who worked at that particular station where Lori was working at, but also in other Tegna-owned stations across the nation. And really what we heard was disturbing. A very clear pattern emerged of discrimination and marginalization of Latinos and really all journalists of color who worked at these stations. And as a result, we've now joined with NABJ and AAAJ to tackle this issue. We want to present a united front and a concerted effort to hold Tegna accountable and press them into making the necessary changes to make their newsrooms and newscasts more diverse and inclusive. Our first meeting produced one concrete result. Tegna updated its policies and to clarify the use of the phrases illegal immigration and illegal immigrants. They agreed that using the word illegal can be inaccurate and harmful, and they directed their journalists to avoid using those terms both in broadcast and in digital content. This is a good first step, but honestly, there is a lot more work to be done in this area. So we will be meeting in a couple of weeks with the Tegna CEO and some other leaders. And at that meeting, we plan to press for a change in leadership. It's clear that the current leadership has fostered a culture where journalists of color are not provided the tools they need to be successful, and they are being discriminated against, and we cannot allow this to continue. On another front, members of the Rapid Response Team also asked for a meeting with the LAPD over concerns about journalists there being detained, arrested, and even injured. The topic also came up of discussing credentialing. That's one concern that LAPD has raised, that they don't know how to distinguish mainstream journalists from others. So that's still a topic that is being discussed. They subsequently invited us to a meeting with the LA Press Club and RTNA, where they asked us to be a part of a training video. Then they went ahead and did it without us, which, as Christy Fajardo said, was probably a good thing, because then they stated in the video that journalists would be arrested if we remain at the scene of an unlawful assembly. So as you can see, there's a lot of work that needs to be done and that NAHJ is in the middle of. Since then, we have joined a coalition of journalism groups and unions representing journalists that are demanding that local leaders and law enforcement respect the freedom of the press and to not interfere with our work. We'll also be a part of the coalition's meeting with the LAPD chief, more coming up. Christy Fajardo and Yvette and McNelly have really been at that forefront and have attended numerous meetings as we continue to fight for that. Related to that, I want to point out that NAHJ joined forces with several of our journalism sister organizations, Asian American journalists, the Black journalists, the Native American Journalists Association, Society of Professional Journalists, and also the Association for LGBTQ Journalists. And we got together really quickly, I have to say, and effectively a couple of weeks ago to denounce when the Minnesota State Police was threatening to arrest journalists for covering the protests if they didn't leave. I mean, obviously, this is just reprehensible. The police should not be threatening journalists for doing their jobs, or peaceful protesters for that matter. And as journalism organizations, we stand together to defend reporters out on the streets who are simply doing their jobs and informing the people. So I'm really proud of all of this advocacy work that we've done so far this year. And I look forward to updating everyone on all of these ongoing efforts. And I'm going to turn it over to our ED now, who can tell us more about the budget and, more importantly, our upcoming virtual conference. Alberto?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here on a Saturday. Really appreciate it. Just as Nora actually shared, we are again on another membership high at 3,431. So we are just shy of 3,500 members. So I want to give you guys all a round of applause. And I feel like we're going to get there. We come conference time. Usually around conference time, we also see a bump in our registration because people want to get the member rate. and our early bird end next week. So I think we're going to continue to see that bump. So kudos to all of you. This is definitely a good time for the organization where people continue to want to be a part of something that is having an impact in the industry. And I think all the advocacy efforts that the board has taken on is really paying off. So great work. Our convention, our conference is well underway. I think we've shared, and I had met with the executive committee last week, and we're on trend for well, it's hard to have the specific trends of a virtual conference because this is our second virtual conference, but it's our first doing it by ourselves. So we're still trying to know exactly what we can compare it to. But in a nutshell, we are about a third of the way there as it relates to our numbers. We have $161,000 in of committed revenue at this point. And I'm not including the great news we got from NBC last night, but until we get a signed contract, that's when I count it. But we're on trend to meet our projected expectations with revenue. We also currently have 181 registered participants. That includes some of the comps that come with the registrations. And so we are, I said, about a third of the way there. We expect things to really kind of start picking up here in the next 3 weeks. One, because of the early bird, but also because sponsors are starting to really kind of focus their efforts in this area. As all of you guys know, there's been so much going on in these areas. And we are first. Our conference, just as a reminder, is on July 12th through the 17th. We are having 3 weeks of pre-conference training. So that is going to be available, but it is not required. The traditional trainings, job fair, and all of those things will happen the actual week of July 12th through the 17th. Any questions on the conference or updates? I will say that it is, one thing that is for sure is that a virtual component is here to stay. I think that we saw last year that we were able to reach many more members who aren't able to take the time off to travel or the expenses associated with it. So I think we are going to be seeing a combination of that in future conferences, no matter what. Especially with the job board, I think that's one of those things where the last year we held, I think it was over 6,600 interviews that were held, and that was all done virtually. We are working with Eric again, who manages our job board and NABJ's job board. So our experience will be different, but we're still going to facilitate that process of making sure that people can access those job opportunities as much as possible. And we don't want to penalize people who can't afford to take the time off or who can't travel in the future. So I do believe we're going to have elements of the training conference part as well as the job board. Although next year with NABJ, and I think since it's going to be a big conference, I wonder if we should even plan any kind of programming, because I think everybody is ready to have a reunion and a party in Vegas next year. So until that happens, we continue to have the focus be virtual and look at finding ways to make sure that everybody has access to what we're trying to bring as much as possible. So feeling good about the conference, and that's coming along. Also wanted to share that we've started our 2020 audit. The official week is actually May 3rd, but we've already been provided information. This is again our annual process that we have an independent party that actually evaluates all of our finances. The audited financials is what we normally keep on our website. That is what our funders ask for. That's what other people ask for. And so in part of that process, we also file the 990s. So the audit process should be complete in 2 to 3 months and probably will be presented as it is in the fall. And that's coming along. Some great things that have been happening and a couple things that are moving along. We just had a really great training with Univision last week, where we had over 85 participants. At one point, I think we had over 108 people that participated. This is a really, we still have opportunities to generate more memberships for journalists who are working in Spanish language media. And so we really see this as an opportunity to continue to build that bridge. As you know, Univision is going through its own transitions, and I think that they're trying to figure out the best way to move forward, keep momentum, but also we don't want to be a part of just a place where they're recruiting to let people go. So we do that dance very carefully, but we want to make sure that we're providing our members with those opportunities. And so it was a great showing. We continue to do very well with our digital trainings, and that's why I think this conference will continue to be a success. I'm not sure if I did share here. I know I've shared with the executive committee that we also have an extended partnership with Google, where we will be doing another round of training from let's see, I would say mid-May, but it's been delayed a few times. So could be mid-June through the end of the year. It'll continue to focus on research tools that are helpful for all storytelling. And so that was a nice extension, something we did not plan on, but something that is exciting for our members to be able to be a part of. In this particular case, again, we focus on doing the trainings in Spanish. And in our deliverables, we will be doing some trainings that'll be 3 trainings. One will be in Puerto Rico, one in South America, and one in Central America. So I think that's going to be an opportunity, again, to continue to support journalists. Having said that, we also have an emerging partnership with Facebook, NAHJ, and IFIJ that will be announced next week. The opportunity is for independent journalists who are looking to launch new projects, as it relates to news, whether it's a newsletter or news site or something. There's going to be, I believe there's going to be 12 that are selected for grants between $10,000 to $15,000. It is open not just to NHJ, but to all groups. But if you have a good idea, specifically an area of a news desert that you want to tackle or bring on, or you want to see something that is happening that isn't happening out there, we are going to be able to promote that. And so NHJ will be part of the team that actually not only will promote that, but also will be doing some of the administrative process to help kind of narrow down the selectees. We will not be the ones choosing. There's a committee for that, but we are doing the administrative side of that. Leslie Ann Frank does a fantastic job with all the kind of administrative coordination. She does a great job for us consistently. So we're actually doing that part of it as part of the project. So good that she's done that. I think we've shared that the Verizon fellowship that came and went, and our process of people being interviewed, we had about 9 people that had initially applied. So at the beginning, which was a little frustrated, but we did end up with over 50 applications of folks that applied for that. So I think it's very, very exciting. It also did bring in another round of members because you did have to be an NHJ member to be a part of it. So that definitely increased. And also, we just are announcing all of our scholarships. All of the scholarship winners are being announced as we speak. Some were highlighted already. I know Nora's letter actually also probably brought up some of these highlights already, so it's great to have you see that. But we continue to support that next generation of students. It's incredibly important for us. And on the other side of that, big kudos and a round of applause for Jessica, who has done some outstanding work and really promoting and trying to bring more support to journalists who are working with that next generation of students. And so there's been some outreach there that we're trying to make sure that we can provide as much support for them as possible. And I think that, again, we just can't think of journalism as a linear career. I think all of you know that the industry changes. And if the more that we can provide support for folks that are having a significant role in working with journalists, the better. The last thing I have to share is some sad news. We had Chris Parra, who was NHJ He's a longtime financial manager, I think over 20 years, passed away last week. Suddenly, she fell and unfortunately wasn't able to make it as a result of the fall injuries. And so we have begun conversations with the folks that are managing this work. Potentially it's an opportunity for NHJ to revisit kind of the investment process and the procedures, not procedures, but the investment decisions that have been made at this point. So we pretty much have been very conservative, but that was part of the tactic. Just know that there could be an opportunity to look again at how we can continue to grow those investments. There stands almost about $750,000 in that. So it's a good base for NAHJ. Chris did a fantastic job for us, and we're very, very sorry to see her go. She has been with NHJ really through the time it was about from the heyday to the low day to the heydays. So it was very, very sad. But NHJ's expressed our condolences, and Yaneth and I were part of the service on Tuesday. So it's just such a weird time. And I shouldn't just close with that because that's way too low, and I'm very sorry. But let's focus on the 3,500 membership goal. Again, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I took it down that far. So my apologies. But as you guys know, everybody becomes pretty close and close connected when you work so close together. And so it's hard not to have some of these things kind of interconnect.
Absolutely. These are all trying times, and our condolences, because I'm sure you had developed a very close working relationship with her. So we'll see how we move forward from this, and what kind of opportunity it might bring, especially as we take up the issue of trying to formulate a strategic plan to move forward. This is all part of that discussion. Thank you, Alberto, for all of your hard work, and thank you to the staff as well for all of their hard work, and to bring us to the point where we are closing in on 3,500. What a goal. Amazing. Any questions from the board? Comments?
I
Okay.
just wanted to congratulate Alberto and Leslie Ann because they did a great job, and I saw so many happy students yesterday, especially many of the students that won scholarships are graduate students, and you know how expensive is grad school. So that was great. Another interesting fact that I want to mention is that 69% of the winners are women, are females. So that's huge and amazing, because that means that women are the ones who are defying and diversifying newsrooms. And another important fact to point out is that 25% of the students that won the scholarships participated at the NHJ Students Match, and 80% of the students from Region 1, from the region of Puerto Rico, that participated at the Students Match also won. So I hope the board keeps alive this initiative, makes it better next year, because indeed it rindió frutos, as we say in Spanish.
Yeah, Len Luis, you've been very, very good at pushing and promoting and holding, sessions and providing a lot of collaborative work with Leslie Ann. So thank you. I think honestly that is one thing that we still need all of you to help with, is how much you reshare and you retweet the things that we're putting out there are going to really extend where people see it. I don't know what happens, but I think at some point people just stop paying attention. So if you bring it up and you share it and you tweet it, I think it makes a big difference. All of you have such strong followings and connection points to your members, so your friends. So I think that's an important one. But yeah, a lot of work. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. And we'll hear more from Luis Joel a little later, and just what a fantastic job he's doing. So when we get his report on a couple of new student chapters, yay.
Yeah, the last thing, sorry, I forgot, Nora, one last thing just to share is that as you know, we have our cultural competency guide handbook.
Mm-hmm.
We do plan to release the Spanish language version at this year's conference. It may be slightly delayed But we do also need some help with that. And so Jennifer Marcial, since it's your area, we're going to be pulling you in to get a little bit of that support. Just as a reference, the last guide was done with 2 journalists leading it. We did a first round of 3 news directors that provided feedback. Then we went back, used that feedback, then pulled in another 7 news directors, got their feedback, did another draft, and then had the executive committee review that, and then it went out. So we had at least 15 journalists, you know, provide feedback and direction. And again, that's considered a living, breathing document. We plan to do the same for the one in Spanish. So we don't want to rush the process just to get it complete without the opportunity to include all these facets of it. And definitely this is a different time than it was even last year. So know that it's coming, but it might be delayed just so that we don't shorten the process of making sure it's as accurate as possible. Thanks.
Thank you, Alberto. Thank you, Alberto. Moving on to regional reports. I think Jamie was here but had to step away. So we'll jump into the next. That would be Melissa Macaya, Region 3. I will mention real briefly that we are still looking for a Region 1 director. We had a couple of interests, but we still have not been able to fill that job. News has been overwhelming, but I will focus our attention on filling that role as soon as possible. So we'll move on to Region 2, which is Jamie, who's not with us, had to step out, and Melissa Macaya. Eager to hear from you.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, and thank you to all of our members that are joining us. I oversee Region 3, which includes DC, Maryland, Virginia, Philadelphia, Delaware, and Kentucky. We currently have 2 professional chapters, which include DC and Philadelphia, and we have 2 student chapters, which include American University and University of Maryland. And hopefully very soon after our meeting today, we will have a new student chapter in Virginia Tech. We are voting hopefully to approve them later today in our meeting. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to give a big shout out to Brian Zapata, who's on the call today. He has done an extraordinary job spearheading the effort alongside Luis Joel. Thank you, Luis Joel, for your help. And even before becoming an official chapter, they've been holding events. They've been really finding and looking for creative ways to organize the students on campus. So we're really excited to have a presence at Virginia Tech, a place we've never had a student chapter before. So we're really excited about that. To give a quick update on our chapters, the DC chapter and both the Philly chapter continue to be very active despite the pandemic. They've been getting very creative in events that they can put on in the virtual setting. The DC chapter has about 150 members and about 111 members that are officially listed as a DC chapter. They had to postpone their yearly Washington Job Fair due to COVID, but they do plan to host it next year alongside the other journalism groups. So far, some highlights of what they've been putting together this spring and earlier this year. Just this week, they had a session with Representative Jesus Chuy Garcia. It was a Q&A session on the record with him. They held a virtual happy hour with their members in March. They had a meeting with the Virginia Tech students that Brian Zapata did a great job putting together, and it was a great opportunity for the chapter board to share a little bit of what NAHJ does and share a bit about their journalism career and provide some tips to them. So that was really great to see. They also continue to put out their Charlie Erickson supplement, which is something they offer 4 times a year. And it is a scholarship where they give support to students who are interning in DC and also pair them with a mentor. So they're in the process of getting applicants right now. And they also are going to be having their chapter election soon before our convention. And they continue to effort a meeting with the White House. They have submitted a request. It's a big effort, of course, of them wanting to rebuild ties with the White House and the Biden administration. So they do have a request in for a meeting at the White House and with the Supreme Court. So we're hoping to hear back and possibly get a meeting going with those administration officials, hopefully by the summer. Moving on to the Philly chapter, as you know, that chapter is fairly new. They started last year and they really have hit the ground running. They have about 50 members in the Philly area. And they've also put some really great virtual programming in the past year. They have a new board. Their new president, Miguel Martinez Valle, has really done a great job so far. Just this month, last month, they put together a community vaccine panel with experts from the community on how vaccines work and how to make vaccines more accessible to communities of color. They've also been holding virtual chats with different journalists in the Philly area. And we're hoping to have a virtual event with the DC chapter and the Philly chapter to hope, members from both chapters and our boards to really connect throughout the pandemic. And I think that's it for me as of now. Again, we're just really excited to get the Virginia Tech chapter going. I'll be working with Brian, continue to work with him closely to make sure that that he gets the support that he needs, and that we're also offering support to the students there for them to get involved in NAHJ.
Melissa, this is Blanca. Can you repeat the name of the scholarship that?
Yes, of course. It's a Charlie Erickson supplement, and it was started in honor of Charlie. And it's a supplement worth $500, and it's provided 4 times a year, and it's really to help students when they're back in the city to pay for metro, to help them with their living expenses. As you know, DC is a very expensive city, and every semester they try to increase that amount.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Great report. Happy to hear so much is going on in your region. Is Elwin? I don't see Elwin. Region 4. Nope. Okay. Moving on to Region 5 then. Nanette. I also didn't realize. There she is, Nanette. Nanette, can you hear us? Nanette is saying she apologizes, but she's got no audio right now. She can hear us. Okay, we'll skip Nanette and move on to Region 6, Valerie.
I think Valerie is also working. She sent us an email.
Yeah, she said she said she was going to try to be in and out because she did have a report she wanted to make. She wanted to share some good stuff going on in her region. We'll come back and see if she can join us at the tail end of this. Johnny Cordova, Region 7.
Hello, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you see me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you everybody for being here this morning, first of all. So Region 8 encompasses Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and Nevada. We've been struggling to get meetings going, but we did have this Thursday a webinar with the NAHJ ASU chapter. I think the challenge has been usually securing guests because of everybody, I guess, is busy, and it was the end of the semester. That was another issue. But we did manage to do our webinar, and it was on diversity and representation. The idea was when I talked to a lot of the recruiters, they are looking for writers, producers, content producers. We all know that we have a lot of students who want to be in front of the camera, but we want to make sure that they also know about jobs behind the camera, because there are many opportunities, and it's always good to sample what each job entails and what it offers. But talking to a few of the recruiters for different companies, which were Scripps and for NBC, the idea came to do this webinar for people behind the camera. So with them, we were able to secure some speakers from Scripps, Univision Arizona, and Tegna which is KPNX Channel 12. They were all behind the camera, photographers, multi-skilled journalists, which usually are not in front of the camera, but they do provide basically all the services for news. So we were able to do that with NAHJ, ASU, and we are now trying to work on another webinar, which came from this as an idea from the students to possibly do the same thing, but it turns out that everybody who participated were men. So we are trying to do the same thing now, but maybe with an all-female panel. Just to show also that, we have a lot of women who are technical directors, photographers, editors, writers. And that's basically what we've been focusing on in this region. I am usually just sending email and being open to anybody who wants to collaborate with NAHJ in this region. But that's basically my report. I think that that was the gist of it. That was, I think, the summit, the culmination of a lot of work in this region, which is broad, and we're trying to kind of unite everybody, because we're also dispersed. But that's really what we've been working on. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Appreciate that report. Christy Fajardo.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christy Fajardo. I represent Region 8, which is the West Coast, Idaho, Alaska, and Hawaii. And our professional chapters have been very busy. The Bay Area chapter is holding virtual meetings. They're also hosting local guest speakers for Q&As virtually, and have been really aggressive about getting job listings on their social media to get more Latinos in news. The San Diego Tijuana chapter is also very active. They're currently holding a fundraiser to raise money for scholarships for local students. They too are being really aggressive about finding and posting job listings. And the Northwest chapter, which is the Seattle and Idaho area, they're holding virtual meetings as well. And they actually got started right before the pandemic hit. So it took a little while, but they're really up and running. They're holding their first virtual event. They're also talking about holding an art walk. So I was pretty impressed by how creative they're being. LA also was launched just as the pandemic was starting. That did not slow them down. They just wrapped up newsroom meetings that they've had throughout the city of Los Angeles with different news directors, editors, publishers, GMs, pushing for more diversity and asking them to commit to having their newsrooms look like the community. They plan to check back in 6 months with all of these leaders that they've met with to see how it's going. Also asking them how we can partner with them and help them reach those goals. They're also holding monthly virtual events. They held one last month on COVID and Latinos, where they had representatives from the CDC and also from local organizations in LA County talk about what went wrong and what's next in terms of COVID and the Latino community. They also just had a virtual event on social media and how to use it effectively. And they had some very impressive guest speakers there as well. And also I should mention that there are 2 local colleges that are in the process of trying to start an NAHJ chapter. That's Cal State LA and Long Beach City College.
Thank you, Christy. I was hoping that it would take a little bit more time for Valerie to join us. She is the only reporter on her desk today, so she was trying to juggle us, but she does have some news she wanted to share with us. So I was hoping she texted me that she thought she could join us shortly. She's got some exciting news to share with us that we've got 2 new chapters that are forming in her region, a Wisconsin chapter and a Greater Cleveland chapter. So when she's available to join us, we'll see if maybe we can add her to the end of new business. And let's go ahead and push along unless anyone has any questions of any of the regional directors.
There's also, Nanette did mention in the chat, if we want to read it, Nora, what she's doing.
Oh, go ahead, Jessica.
No, Nanette.
No, Nanette is back. Oh, I'm sorry.
She is not able to speak. She typed out what she wanted to say.
Okay, well, she says that the University of Texas El Paso chapter wants to become a formal chapter. Oh, I thought they were already. They want to become a formal chapter, and she's working hard on making that happen. And she says that's probably the biggest thing that's going on in her area, which is Region 5, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana.
Nora, I have a question for Christy, if I may.
Sure.
Christy, you mentioned that the San Diego Tijuana chapter is trying to raise money. Is there a place where we could donate as something that we could broadcast here in the meeting, so as they, in their efforts to raise that money for scholarships?
Absolutely. They've posted it on social media. I can cut and paste the link.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. We can go ahead and hear, we're going to hear from Luis Joel a little later, but we can go ahead and get a report from Jessica Redis.
Thank you. Just briefly, because I don't want to take much time of the meeting, just to report that we're advancing on the academic activities. I want to thank Janet Guillen and Junior Bonaparte, because we had this initiative, right, in getting more academic educators, and we did get some new academic educators, so I'm planning on meeting with them. We also had yesterday, actually, a workshop about teaching journalism in times of pandemic, and that was very, very interesting and useful, because now we need to get ready for the new normality, whatever it is, in the classrooms, right? And then train the students how to report during pandemic has been also challenging, right? We also started the newsletter with kudos regarding educators, so whatever they publish or any accomplishment, any promotion in the academia, because also it's challenging for Latinos in J schools. I talked about the closed group, and I would like to, we decided to have this kind of end of the semester workshop for NAHJ academic educators every semester. So because we think that's important. And the other part is that I would like to start having promoting on if region directors can join me in this initiative to have one academic officer in each region, because I think it would be useful to work with them as well. And of course, I want to thank the educators that are part of the academic task force. I couldn't do this with their fantastic support. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate those remarks. Okay, moving along, unless there's any other reports to come from our members. Moving along under old business, we have archives. Unfortunately, I do not have too much new to report on that. We are committed to trying to find the right place for the NAHJ archives, and I really want to thank Geraldine Coles Azocar and Maggie Rivas for their work, and we look forward to try to figure out how to move this process along. I think provided that our financial outlook continues on a positive trend, we might be able to do something by for the next budget. But that's all we have under old business. Under new business, moving right along to Luis Joel.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here. Today we have good news. The National Association of Hispanic Journalists, NAHJ, as you all know, has over 20 student chapters, but today we're hopefully going to approve 2 more. First, I want to talk to you about Brian Zapata. He's a senior, a junior with a major on industrial and systems engineering, and he founded the first NAHJ student chapter at Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University, better known as Virginia Tech. A curious fact about Virginia is that in Virginia, there's only a 9% of Hispanic population, according to the Pew Research. However, he got 30 members, 13 miembros, that gave their signatures to establish the student chapter at the university, a predominantly white university. And even though the COVID-19 pandemic, they have been organizing several initiatives like trainings online, among with other student chapters all across the US. So they have been working since the first day, perhaps the pandemic, and giving all their energy and all their enthusiasm para dejarse sentir, as we say in Spanish, inside of the association. And another amazing student, it's Alejandra Santiago. She has a bachelor and a degree in international business and logistics. And then she discovered her passion for journalism, and that passion for journalism guided her to open a student chapter at Long Beach City College in California. And her main goal is to help college students, transfer students, and students like her who are merging their careers to diversify newsrooms in the US and outside the US. Her student chapter in California has over 10 members, and they are mainly from journalism, writing, media, PR students, all engaged and all worried about our mission of having more Latinos and more Latinas in news. And today I really want to you all help me improve the student chapters, because as you all know, students are an important part of this association. They are the future of NAHJ. You have been all very supportive of all the initiatives I've been doing. But I will not be in this position many times more. And these students like Brian Salgado and students like Alejandra Salgado will be the students who will take the lead of this association. Sometimes the student chapters and the professional chapters are the bones of NAHJ. They're always working. It doesn't matter what happens in the board of directors. So we need to give them the support, and having 2 more student chapters, especially the student chapter in Virginia, a state that is predominantly white, it would be a powerful message of the Latino and the Latina community. So I would like to make a motion to approve both student chapters today, if there isn't any question or doubt about it.
I'll second that motion.
A heads up, I think it needs to be one individual motion for each.
No problem. So I established one motion, sorry, my English is awful, to establish a student chapter at Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University. It's better known as Virginia Tech. So that is my first motion. Thanks. And the second motion, it's to establish an NAHJ student chapter at Long Beach City College.
I'll second that motion.
We need to vote on each one individually. So let's vote on the first motion that was made by Luis Joel and seconded by Melissa Macaya. And remind me what was the name of that chapter?
Virginia Tech was the first one.
Virginia Tech. Okay, so we have on the floor a motion to approve a Virginia Tech student chapter. Is there any discussion? Any comments? Okay, so let's go ahead and do a roll call vote on this, Blanca.
And I see Valerie on, she's in, so.
Yay.
And
Okay.
we don't know for how long we're gonna have her, so.
Okay, well, I'll quickly do this. Nora,
Yes.
Julio Cesar,
Yes.
Yvette,
Yes.
Arelis,
Yes.
Caldi,
Yes.
Blanca, yes, Jennifer,
Yes.
McNally,
See,
Jessica,
Sí.
Luis Joel.
Of course.
Is Jamie back? I don't think so, right? Melissa,
Sí, yes, of course.
Nanette, I pretty can you just write yes out, please? And then Valerie, we're voting on. Are you available?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Johnny.
Yes.
Christy Fajardo.
Yes.
Okay. Except for, well, we just don't have Alwyn. It's, I mean, everybody who's here, it's unanimous.
Okay, motion carried. Congratulations, Luis Joel. Next one.
Congratulations. I want to congratulate Brian because he's connected. And I truly admire the energy that he has. A curious fact that he's not a journalism student, but he's going to study journalism. And like establishing an NAHJ student chapter in a college like Virginia Tech, where the liberal arts aren't that known, it's a huge goal. Es un logro muy grande, ¿no? Y demuestra su entrega y su capacidad de convencer a que sigan nuestra misión. Así que nada. Felicidades, Brian.
Felicidades.
Thank you,
Felicidades,
Brian.
Brian.
Okay. Your next motion, Luis.
Yes, the next motion is for Long Beach City College.
I second.
Mark Nelly, the seconded.
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion? There's no further discussion. Let's go ahead and call for the vote, Blanca.
Okay, Nora.
Yes.
Julio Cesar.
Yes.
Yvette.
Yes.
Arelis.
Yes.
Caldi.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Was that Jennifer? Yes.
McNally, which
Sí.
Luis Joel.
Yes.
Jessica.
Yes.
Melissa.
Yes.
Nanette, please say yes in your chat. Valerie.
Yes.
Johnny.
Yes.
Christy.
A very enthusiastic yes.
Yay. Oh yes, that's right. Blanca, I say yes too.
Okay, and you caught that Nanette voted on the chat, yes, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if she's voting for the first one or the second motion.
Well.
All right. The motion carries nonetheless. So again, congratulations, Luis Joel, wonderful work. We're gonna jump a little out of order before we move on to the next thing to bring in Valerie Juarez, who technically also is new business too. So Valerie, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Valerie Juarez, Region 6 Director. So basically all the states across, the Midwest, and I am based in Green Bay, Wisconsin, at NBC 26, the official Packer station. So a little bit about kind of what's been going on in our region. So we have a lot of exciting news all around. It's one of those things where we're taking things step by step, but we're in a good progress. Everything is, poco por poquito, pero, we're making progress. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and it's not going to get done overnight, but we're working towards that, kind of continue that efforts of more Latinos in news. And one of the reasons why I'm just so passionate about this mission of more Latinos in news, and specifically here in the Midwest, is kind of being from Los Angeles and, having to go to school in New York City and just being in the Midwest for the first time. That's when I realized that there's more of us besides the coast. And as I'm getting to know more people and I'm getting myself immersed in the industry, I'm getting to know that there are also more Latinos in the media out here. So a little bit about kind of what's been going on, starting off with Wisconsin, where I am located. Through the power of social media, I've been finding out that there are more Latinos at my other competitor station. So currently in my station, which is the NBC affiliate, I'm the only Latina at the station. However, the ABC affiliate, we have at least 2 people on air that are Latinos. One that just started, originally from North Carolina. He just actually joined the membership not too long ago, I think this week. And then we have this other person, Aisha Morales, which she has also recently joined, the NAHJ membership in the last, I think, month or so. And congratulations on her end, because she's actually was the weekend morning anchor, and she just got promoted to the morning news anchor Monday through Friday. So, you know, we have her on board, and a few other people across in Milwaukee as well. And we all kind of came together and decided that there is a much need for, you know, the start of a chapter here in Wisconsin. You know, we also have someone from Prince in the area as well. And we figured that we would want to do it statewide and not so much kind of in a citywide, just because in the state of Wisconsin, we have Milwaukee, which is I think in the market's 30s. We have Green Bay, which is like in the market 60s. And then we have up north in the Northwoods, that market, which I can't remember on the top of my head, the name of them. What is it?
Madison.
No, not Madison, up kind of by Rylander. Is that what it is?
I don't know.
The Rylander market. So I know that's like a couple hours north towards the top, Northwoods. And I know that one's like a starter market in the hundreds, I think. So, you know, we have a lot of emerging, you know, journalists kind of getting in the industry. So we figured, why not start a statewide chapter where we can then guide support for those in the smaller markets across the state towards the bigger markets and middle markets, so that way we can help one another and just that support system as people make their way and transition towards the news market. So we got, I believe, 11 signatures of people who are interested in starting a Wisconsin chapter. So we have all that paperwork kind of ready to go. Then in Ohio, we have Rosalind from the, I believe it's the Tegna station in the Cleveland area. I don't know the call letters on top of my head right now, but you know, she's interested as well, you know, with a couple of other coworkers and people that she knows in the area, you know, of starting this greater area Cleveland chapter. Rosalind actually, when we were talking, we've had a couple of Zoom meetings since, you know, our conversation back in February, and she actually attended Columbia University, and I believe in like the 2014, 2015, and she mentioned about her involvement with NAHJ in New York City. And at that time, I was also involved with NAHJ in New York as well. And we kind of talked about the support system that we all had during those times as students and how it's important as well in her region. So she is willing to kind of also help lead the efforts in that. And she has helped get the minimum 10 signatures for starting a Greater Cleveland chapter. I've also been in talks with, so I'm part of the Scripps company. That's the parent company that my news station's owned. And so I've reached out to a couple of people that I've met through, you know, different journalism conference in my past, who are recruiters out there with Scripps. And I spoke with one, you guys might know the name of Chip. He used to be the news director in, I believe in Cleveland. He's now a recruiter for Scripps. And anyway, so we had a conversation and we talked about, you know, kind of recruitment efforts. So we're hoping to kind of schedule a couple of, maybe a call or two in the near future. He'll be reaching out to news directors to kind of help grow, you know, memberships, to see if there's any other Latinos, you know, who are interested in joining these chapters. So again, you know, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, but we're getting somewhere. And this is just the beginning of something great. A couple of other things I've been doing is, you know, out of all my region, what I've been doing is kind of going through, you know, each state, going through the different news markets, going through different, you know, different media. So from print, broadcast, radio, and just kind of doing my research and seeing, you know, any Latinos that, you know, are first, that shows up on the list. Obviously, you know, there's probably more behind the scenes as well that we don't know. So I still need to go and reach out to them as well to kind of help and recruit efforts to either, you know, join our membership, maybe those who aren't really familiar or too involved with NAHJ, and kind of letting them know that, you know, this is a great community to be a part of. And so yeah, that's kind of what's been so far with my, in my area. Also, one thing that I would like to also partner up, and this is something that I'll reach out to Luis Joel in the future, is I've also been talking a couple of conversations with the NAHJ DePaul. The students were there. We had a one Zoom meeting not long ago, maybe like a month or two ago. And we're trying to also, you know, see if we can all partner up with people from the professional chapters to kind of maybe do some resume work as well before the people start applying for the, well, summer's kind of already too late, but for the fall internships. that the deadlines will probably be in July. So kind of working on that. And I reached out to a couple of people as well who would be interested in helping us out. At my station level, I have been having conversations with my news director, my general manager, a couple other people on our team to kind of talk about NAHJ and our efforts and how I asked for support, and they were all on board and said, hey, whatever we can help out, any shape, form, they're all on board to help us out. I know with one of our members from the ABC affiliate in Green Bay, Wisconsin, I just saw on social media, this is just kind of what I saw on social media. I saw that one of the news directors from that station had also, expressed support for, Wisconsin as well and any other efforts. So there are a lot of support from, the local management out here. And I think this is just kind of the beginning of a great future out here in the Midwest in the Region 6. So today, while I'm here, I would like to make a motion to approve first the Wisconsin chapter.
I second.
Well, did they
Okay.
did they follow all of the
Yanis has, as my understanding is that Yanis has already done all the work, and the members are all verified, correct? Yanis? I think I see her there. Okay, and I don't hear her, but my understanding is that yes. So Valerie, if all of the members have been verified, then I think we can move on. Any
Yeah, we have
further?
11. We have 11 members, I believe, which is the minimum is 10.
Okay. Any other?
For
There's
the
a motion
state
on the
chapter,
floor.
right? This is or is a student chapter. Sorry.
This is a professional chapter, right?
Professional chapter statewide. Correct.
Okay. There's a motion. Any further discussion? Blanca, any further questions?
No, I just needed to make sure I was getting.
I know. All right.
And I'm happy because Wisconsin, yay, it's like the state away. So.
All right. Then if there's no further discussion, let's go ahead and take the vote. Blanca?
I had to get off of mute. Okay, so Nora.
Yes.
Julio Cesar.
Yes.
Yvette Cabrera.
Yes.
Arelis.
Yes.
Meldy.
Yes.
Blanca, yes. Jennifer.
Yes.
Jessica.
Yes.
Yes, okay. McNally.
Sí.
Luis Joel. Luis, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry. Estaba en un viaje. Yes.
You're not back, right? Melissa.
Yes. And thank you, Valerie, for all of your hard work.
Nanette okay, she says yes. Valerie.
Yes.
Johnny.
Yes.
Christy.
Yes.
And I think that's it. So it's unanimous. We have a new Wisconsin state chapter.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you. And, I'm excited to kind of, again, like I said, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning, and there's a lot more that we'll have to get done. But I'm excited for this new start and continuing the mission. And then I would like to kind of continue it on and make a motion to approve the Greater Cleveland, Ohio chapter, the professional chapter.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the Greater Cleveland chapter. Is there any discussion? All right, then let's move on to the vote. Blanca?
Okay, Nora.
Yes.
Julio Cesar.
Yes.
Yvette.
Yes.
Arelis.
Sí.
Caldi.
Yes.
Blanca, yes. Jennifer.
Yes.
Jessica.
Sí.
McNally.
Sí.
Luis Joel,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Nanette. Hopefully she will type yes in a second. Oh, there it is.
You did.
Valerie,
Yes.
Johnny,
Yes.
Christy.
Yes.
Okay. Unanimous.
Wonderful. Excellent. Congratulations, Valerie. This was really exciting. 4 new chapters today. Excellent.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and like I said, I think this is I'm so excited to kind of get started, and you know, a lot of the leaders that I've been speaking with, you know, in conversations the last few weeks and last month or two, you know, we're already kind of brainstorming, kind of, you know, who to partner with. You know, again, it's all going to be baby steps, and there's still a lot to get going. But just even like just a discussion about it is very exciting, and just makes it very, you know, we're all very optimistic. And one thing that I kind of did want to mention, you know, since these chapters did get approved, the greater Cleveland chapter, there's a reporter, and you know, I'll put the link in or email it to you guys. There's a reporter from the Tegna affiliate who did a COVID PSA, and Rosalind, who is helping lead the efforts for this, she helped produce that PSA in Spanish. It was bilingual, and I would say that I was actually really impressed by that PSA. In terms of, it was about kind of getting your COVID vaccine, and it was just, I loved it, and I think you guys should all watch it. So if you guys have a few minutes, I will put this in the link somewhere before I leave. Also, on my end as well, with my news management, we've been also trying to make that, bring these discussions weekly. So every week we've been having meetings to kind of talk about what can we do, and I've been pushing a lot more you know, representation in our news coverage, and kind of, you know, pushing for that. And I've been very happy, and I want to share that I'm very happy that for the first time ever as a journalist, I feel that finally I'm able to tell stories from the Latino community, and it makes me very happy. It makes me very happy because this is the reason why I got into journalism, was to tell the stories of the community. And for the first time ever, I'm finally having management that can see that and can see how important that is and supports that mission. And that's something that I'm super excited. And yeah, so I just wanted to share that, you know,
Thank
and
you.
we did a COVID PSA as well, and in Spanish that me and another girl did, and you know, for COVID vaccines. And it's very exciting that finally, you know, hard work is, you know, being noticed, and the efforts for more Latinos in use is you know, also being noticed. So I wanted to mention that.
Thank you again. Appreciate all of your hard work. Appreciate all of our directors' hard work on the ground. Moving on next, I'm going to turn the floor over to Julio Cesar, who will speak to us about a proposal for some additions to our code of conduct.
Hi, everyone. Ahead of time, I apologize if you hear any whining. My girlfriend just left to go buy groceries, and my dog is not so happy about that.
Pepita.
Life.
Let me pull this up. I wrote something. So what I would like to propose as an addition to our existing code of conduct is a member harassment policy. A member harassment policy would reinforce the NAHJ and its affiliated spaces as a professional organization, because that is what we are. There have been issues in the past with some organization members repeatedly harassing specific members. And it's our job as a board, I believe, to protect our members and make sure that this remains, that the NAHJ itself remains a safe space for people to grow in their careers. Now, this member harassment policy, originally I came up with it as a digital harassment policy, but after advice from several board members, expanded just a general harassment policy, because harassment is more than just, you know, cyberbullying and digital harassment. So it would apply not only to digital spaces like Facebook groups, either chapter or hopefully in the future a national Facebook group, but also in physical spaces like a convention, like a chapter training, maybe, you know, if it's a chapter mixer or something like that. And it would expand to private communications if people are abusing NHJ resources to harass members. Now, the NHJ is an organization that uplifts Hispanic journalists and its members. I think should all work towards that together. So the language that I propose is the following, and I'm going to copy and paste it in the chat just so everyone, including our viewers, have a copy. It would be, the first step would be post removal if applicable, and a warning, which would apply twice. This post removal really kind of only applies to, you know, a Facebook, a LinkedIn group or something like that, if it's a digital space. If it's in person, the warning applies. And so the person would be warned twice. Second step, post removal and forum ban if applicable. We might have to change the wording on that because this is like the forum is really only digital. But I'll get to that in a bit. So second step, post removal and forum ban if applicable. Third step, direct warning from the president to stop all harassing behavior. And if things persist and they are serious enough, the fourth step would be membership removal. Now, it doesn't only hold members accountable for their actions, but it also means more work and responsibility on our part, not just the board, but pretty much anyone who organizes an NHJ space where people interact. So the first two steps, again, they're relying on the judgment on whoever's running the space. If it's like a regional Facebook group for the Wisconsin chapter, it would be whoever's in charge of that. If it's a mixer or an event, it would be the people who organized it would be in charge of warning the person who was harassing someone. And the second step, then I think if it's a physical space, maybe we should, like, you know, up to the discretion of the person, the harassing member should be removed from that physical space, either you kicked out of the event or something similar. That's where I think, now that I put this down, I think we might have to rework the wording on that second one. The third step, again, direct warning from the president. That's if this is a local issue, it would be something that can be brought up to the board. It doesn't have to be in a meeting, I think. I'll wait to hear what y'all think. I think it could be in an email, either to Nora, to the whole board, I don't know. But the third step is, you know, at the discretion of the president. It would be a direct warning from the president to the person, telling them you have to stop this harassing behavior, because if you don't, then things go onto the fourth step, which is membership removal. That said, to start discussion, I motion to bring this addition of the member harassment policy before the vote, before the board, to be adopted to our code of conduct.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to amend our code of conduct to update how to deal with a member harassment policy. The motion calls for the removal of the post, if applicable, and a warning. This would happen twice. The third step would be to remove the post, and also to ban that person from the forum if applicable. The next step would be a direct warning from myself, or depending on the space, the person responsible for that particular forum. And the last step would be membership removal if the actions continue. Is there any
I have a third. The third step wouldn't be the person in charge. The first two steps are the person in charge of the space. The third step is the president herself.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is also the reason that I bring up basically a fourth strike is what we had happen in the past is someone abusing a Facebook group, a local Facebook group, to harass someone. And when that person was banned from that forum, they went to direct emails. So they were just emailing the person directly. but it was abusing NHJ channels to do so. That's why I think it should be the point. Let's say this happens at a student mixer or something. The person would have already been removed by the person in charge at that point. And if this person comes back and keeps being an issue, then that's when they would reach out to the president. So it wouldn't be the person in charge, it would be the president at the third step.
Okay, we need to make sure we have the language correct then for the motion.
Let me interrupt here because I know there's a motion. I guess we're gonna discuss this. That's what we're doing.
This is the part where we discuss it, yes.
Okay,
This is the-
have we consulted with an attorney on the language on this?
Julio, I don't. did
No.
you No.
We haven't.
And this will apply to this. We're talking about social media, right? This isn't like adding to our harassment policy, but this is addressing the social media aspect of it, which we've seen that, it's an issue, that's where it is, right?
Well, it's the process, right, Julio Cesar, because right now we have a code of conduct that applies to member behavior at conferences. It outlines that harassing conduct can include many forms, including, harassment online, but we don't yet have the steps in place for how to handle these members. And so this is what this is doing. It's the process by which we respond when members are harassing other members or staff, et cetera.
I support this, but I suggest that we pass this to an attorney and that the language, is revised by an attorney, just to be as a cautionary thing, Yeah,
I think that would be okay. I would prefer that we go through it to get the language final on our end before.
Okay.
So, for example, when we say post removal of applicable warning applies twice, the second step, post removal and forum ban, should we change? And Yvette brings up a good point. The existing code of conduct only really applies to the conference, to the one national conference we have here, but we have a lot more events and a lot more digital spaces as well, which is why this would expand it and give people already have the authority to kick someone out of an event or something, but this also, if let's just use the Wisconsin chapter as an example because they're just getting started, or Virginia Tech, it makes people feel safer, like you are following an established procedure. I think.
I think that with everything that has happened in recent years and other things that I have experienced attending conferences, even with other groups and things that I've been aware of, I think that we need to be clear. Like we said in Puerto Rico, cuentas claras conservan amistades. We need to be very clear about these things, and we need to be very clear and have a process. If somebody behaves badly, this is what's going to happen. We live in a society of rules, right? And we all that's what we're all about, right? So I am completely in support of this. I just think that given the fact that I deal with attorneys all the time, I feel more comfortable after this language is revised that we consult with the attorney and pass it around just to be safe.
Julio, I'm more than happy to help you finalize this language, given the experience with the bylaws and just like writing out formulae such as direct warning from the NAHJ national president, that kind of thing. So I'm happy to do that, and then we can submit it to an attorney.
Okay. I'm just going to take these notes already.
Okay. So
thank you, Julio Cesar, for working on this, because this is something that we need to do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of groups are dealing with a lot of these, and they probably revising their own rules and trying to craft some new things. And social media obviously has opened the doors for a lot of other things that nobody could have ever predicted, right? So we have to evolve with time. So thank you for bringing this up.
Yeah.
I just want to stress that that we welcome criticism, especially constructive criticism. We welcome it. What we're trying to address is to make sure that our members when they are engaging with us, that they do so in a respectful manner and not bully staff or other members who have volunteered their time to try to push our mission forward. So yes, criticize us, but do it in a respectful and cordial language, and we can have an honest, frank discussion. And so what all we're trying to do here is to establish a process with how do we deal with this moving forward, because that does not currently exist in our guidelines. So my concern though is that we do have a vote, a motion on the floor. And so I don't know if we need to entertain additional language that says, you know, we want it reviewed by an attorney. I guess what I'm wondering is if we're really ready to vote on this specific language.
I don't think we have to necessarily vote on it yet. It could be, what I would like to do is get people's input on the language that we as a board would want. And then once we have that quote unquote final, like not really finalized, but like as good as it's going to get in this meeting, we table it pending consultation with an attorney. We email this over to an attorney, get it checked out. And then if it sounds like pretty much everyone's on board, we might even be able to pass it through an email vote. All we would need to do would be send an email out to our members saying, we are doing an email vote on this. It requires every single board member to vote yes if it passes. If not, it'll have to wait till the next meeting. But it can be tabled. Like we can discuss it as much as we want. And then
I think this should be tabled because we can vote for, this language is not ready. We cannot vote for something that is not there yet, right? We have the ingredients to bake the cake, but the cake is not baked yet.
Yeah,
So,
I just think we're getting ahead of ourselves talking about tabling it because I think there's more discussion that can happen before we officially.
Yeah, I mean, is there anybody else who wants to?
Yeah, like.
I mean, I agree with it.
I wanted just to add, because I like what Nora was saying. We want to make sure that the channel is open for constructive criticism. We don't want anybody coming back and saying, you know, you guys are censoring me or there's censorship at NAHJ because you don't let me say. We just want to define harassment. And I'm pretty sure the language is already there for us because we have to sign our code of conduct. We just got to make sure that that is also tied or somehow linked to this new policy to define, you know, harassment is this and that, and, you know, and these are the channels. Because, you know, I don't want it to come back later on and, so, you know, turning the tables and saying, hey, you guys are censoring me because I cannot say this or I couldn't. It's just establishing these are the channels and this is the appropriate language. As long as it's constructive, you know, you can criticize all you want because we welcome the criticism, but we welcome it in an appropriate way without being disrespectful. So like Mike Nelly said, you know, the ingredients are there. We just gotta make sure that it's clear and the attorney may be looking at it because I know like a lot of police departments, they already have a definition, or maybe we can just make sure that it's
So
in there.
we already have that. That already exists. What this is an enforcement policy. And this will be added to the code of conduct. We already have definition for harassment. We even have the process for membership removal already enshrined in our bylaws. This is merely like a progressive discipline framework.
Okay, I thought it was gonna be like a separate addendum, but you're saying that it's gonna be part of what we have already in the handbook.
This is already defined. Harassment's already defined. It's in our code of conduct. So what this is just an enforcement policy that we attach to the code of conduct. Right, Julio?
Yes, yeah, that's correct.
The reason why I'm saying is because we've seen, I mean, from what I've seen, and I've been lucky not to experience it, but sometimes, you know, you get surprised by the actions. I've never been, I mean, I would never imagine what I have seen. So That's why, you know, for me, it's new. It's new. I mean, I understand when we sign it for us as board members, yes, but I've never experienced it coming from the other side, you know, which is kind of like a backlash. So that's why I was making sure.
Well, you know, I think that, like I said before, you know, we are an evolving society and things change, and so have we. You know, we're dealing with these issues. They're complicated. We don't want to be perceived as we trying to censor people, you know, but there has to be some rules that need to be followed, and some code of conduct, you know.
To be clear, I think this is a policy, sorry, McNally, but to be clear, like this is something I think that we hope never have to use, that this is very much for extreme circumstances. And like in most cases, right, even we'll take criticism even if it isn't constructive, right? Like that's not the issue here. The issue is for those extreme situations where you have, you know, like serious harassment as defined by the code of conduct, you know, and I would entertain questions, and I'm sure Julio's prepared to answer from the rest of the board about like who gets to decide what harassment is and what level of harassment is. Well, it's defined in our code of conduct already. And if you have those hangups, feel free to express those now.
No, you're right, and I agree with you on that. You know, nobody wants to do this. Nobody wants to expose a member. I mean, that's not something that we are striving. We want more people to join our organization. But you know, there has to be some rules. You know, there has to be a code of conduct, and there has to be a process when things get really, really out of hand, and there's not, and the other side is just not really coming to senses, you know, to behave in a human possible way. There has to be a process of removal. So.
Now, I just want to make, sorry, I just want to make one thing clear. When I was bringing up an example, like if it's a student mixer or something, don't take, and this is just a heads up to, and whenever we adopt this code of conduct, I'm sure we'll include this language in the update email. Like just local leaders, don't take this as this is what you absolutely have to do. If someone is harassing someone in person at a mixer, you can kick that person out immediately. Because there are, you know, it's just, you know, things should come, if something is serious enough that you just have to kick someone out, you always have that authority. This is, and it would be at your own discretion. If someone thinks that was done wrong, excuse me, in like as an abuse of power, then that can be dealt with later. But I think it's our priority to keep our members in a safe space.
And just to clarify, the existing code of conduct does apply. It does say it applies to NAHJ national and local events.
Okay.
So, and what I wanted to say to add is that this is, you know, for the most part, our members conduct themselves professionally, but in situations where things get out of hand, this is to protect our members as well who feel attacked by this harassment. And so, you know, when you're in that situation, it's very hard to conduct your work. It's, you know, very hard to continue, you know, personally when you feel attacked in that way. And I just feel that none of our members should be in that situation where they feel that because they are participating at the chapter level or at the national level, and this includes staff, that they can't get their work done because they are being harassed by a few bad apples. So, I think we just need to remember that we are doing this for our members. And it's just, you know, occasionally you will get some of this type of behavior, this type of harassment. And so it's for the rest of the membership that we're doing this for, to create that process, to make sure that we're, you know, dotting all our I's, crossing all our T's, making sure that in the process of handling these situations that we have due process.
I also just wanted to add that, you know, we were talking about the way the organization looks like as far as censorship. I think there's a fine line between criticism and harassment, and it's pretty obvious, and this really helps enforce that idea. We can be, like, I think, was it maybe Arelis who said, you know, we can be criticized all we want, and that's all anybody wants, and that's fine, and we're open to that, but there's there's a fine line, and I think harassment won't be tolerated, and I think this is a great way to enforce it. So thank you, Julio, for bringing it up.
Oh, of course. Okay, so it sounds like we're all in agreement that this is something that should be done, but it needs to be worked out, and it will be brought before an attorney if that's the consensus. But in order to get feedback on the proposed language before we put it before an attorney, I'm going to go line by line and see what people think. And let's hopefully limit the discussion to just that current line. A post removal, if applicable, and warning applies twice. I wrote it that way because post removal, if applicable, because post, it's not always something. If it's in person, then it'll just be a direct warning. So the warning applies twice. The post removal sometimes applies. So it would be 2 strikes where the only consequence is a warning from the person in charge of the space. Should we?
And removal of the post.
Yes. Yeah. So removal of the post and a warning from the person in charge of the space. Should we specify who is in charge of that warning?
I have a quick thing to mention about this post removal thing, because at least in the local levels, when this harassment has happened, it hasn't been on our pages, on the NAHJ pages. It's been on personal pages. So post removal does not apply there. We can't manage other people's like personal pages. So will that go then directly into that warning, or how? Like, I feel that that language then eventually needs to be very clear in terms of like, yes, people are using their personal pages, and up to what point we can use what they're posting on their personal spaces as proof of harassment for any NAHJ member, the board, staff, whatever.
Yeah. I'm really glad you bring that up because we can't remove those things, but we could warn the person. And I'm sure, and this would be like not part of what we vote on, but we could write out like a generic message like, hey, this is a warning because this X linked post or whatever has been reported as harassment of an NAHJ member. Just to remind you, do not do this. It is against our code of conduct. Here is a link to the code of conduct. But like Jenny says, what do we do about would we just, if it's a Facebook post, on a private page, do we just report it to Facebook?
Yeah. My concern again is that, Julio, I think I hear a consensus to the idea of this and to establishing a process, but I don't hear a consensus yet on the actual language. And I think we need to fine tune that before we actually vote on it. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, it's what I'm trying to do.
I think we need to table this, and you and Arelis and whoever wants to, help out, trying to craft something, and then we can take a look at it. I mean, because we need to be, and then, share it with the attorney. We just to, we're gonna make this decision, we have to be really on point and just do the right thing.
I agree with that. I just want to get feedback before we get there.
Yeah, definitely.
I was just asking, like, if you table it, then do we have to wait till the next meeting to discuss it, or can we just discuss it now and then formulate something?
That's what we're doing now, discussing it.
Right. I know what I'm asking, because you're saying about tabling, so I just want to make sure. Either way, like, can we discuss it through email and then?
We could here's the problem. We have a motion on the floor.
We have a motion on the floor.
We have to vote on that motion.
We don't have to vote.
Well, there is a motion on the floor. It's been you set it forward and somebody seconded.
Yeah, we do.
We're discussing now, so I think people need to go ahead and vote on that motion. And then we'll move forward. My recommendation is that I don't know, maybe I'm forgetting my Robert's Rules of Orders. I don't know if McNally can introduce an amendment that would table this for something else.
Blanca,
but,
can you read
According to
the
Robert's Rules of Orders, we don't have.
okay, hold on, everybody, wait. Julio, go ahead.
According to Robert's Rules of Order, it's you present a motion, you second a motion, and then there's discussion.
That's
And
what we're
then
doing.
the chair at the end of discussion decides either this is put to a vote or it is tabled. So the tabling is something that you, Nora, could decide to do at the end of the discussion, which is honestly what's going to happen. But the discussion happens first. We don't have to vote on the motion I brought to the table. We would, yeah. So we don't have
The
to.
consensus seems to be to table it for more discussion. Now, you want to hear from the rest of the board, so let's go ahead and go through it, and then we can officially table it.
Okay, so feedback for the first point, post removal if applicable and warning applies twice. Jenny, you were saying, how do we handle private Facebook posts?
Well, I guess that posts that are made not on a particular, like not directly to our NAHJ channels, but people are addressing NAHJ on their personal spaces like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. There's been situations that they've done like Facebook Lives or press like call for press conference to talk about NAHJ locally and stuff like that. But that's something that it's not done on any like NAHJ space that we could take any consideration into like post warnings and whatnot. So I guess that will go directly into that warning. And I guess that Arelis is suggesting some wording that could potentially address that issue on the chat.
Yeah, and I'm copying it over. But yes, it would go straight into the warning. And like Arelis wrote, because we're thinking of the person in charge, she added it's either the chapter or national board president, because it would have to be done by either. If it's a local event, by the local organizer, or if it's just a generic NHJ thing, it might have to be, like Arelis wrote, the national president. Okay.
Cesar. Oh, sorry, Melissa here. I had a quick question. So I think these mechanisms are key. They're going to be super helpful. The one thing I think is important for us to also think about, especially for the first point, is the spaces where these will be discussed. So is this going to be discussed by just the executive board in an executive session to come up with, these decisions, or would this be discussed in an open space with a membership? And then my other point, also for point number one, is what support do we think the national board could give the local chapters, when they have these issues? Discussing, would it be something that they could bring up to the national board for us to, provide guidance to them or support to them so that they don't feel, like they are alone in going through this. So just those two things that I think are important for us to think about.
Yeah,
I completely agree, Melissa, and it's one reason why on the executive board we've been having these discussions about how to address this, so that we can help our chapter leadership out there.
Yeah. I think to the second point for chapter leadership, it might be asking for help from the regional representatives.
Definitely. I was gonna point that out. I think that's a great idea. We can serve as bridges and almost like, mediators. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No. And that would be good because, and it's not necessarily something that has to be added to this harassment policy, but it could be like we can write a separate email to and limit it. I don't know if we have just a list of only like chapter leaders and regional directors and stuff like I mean, there's a board, but also all the chapter leadership. Send it to them, or maybe just as part of like the whole update email to the entire organization, be like, if you are having issues, if you're a chapter leader having issues, then you just bring it up to your regional representative. As to who would discuss it, and it also ties into Magnelli's question, wouldn't the board had to hold a vote for this? It would be, the way I've written it is as long as our harassment, as long as NHJ has an established definition of harassment, which we already do, I think it would be up to the discretion of the initial person in charge. So it wouldn't necessarily be discussed. However, we would have to establish, again, not in this language, but as part of the communication when this is finalized and approved, establish a process like, if you think someone is abusing this, these are the channels to bring up your concerns.
Got it.
What do you all think?
I think the initial response to a situation, like whether it's at an event or it's on social media, can be handled like you're saying by the chapter president or the president. But as you go on down the line on the question of expelling a member, I think that should definitely be a discussion, with the board as a whole and be taken by vote, just to make sure that, again, we're talking about due process for members, and we're saying your behavior your behavior merits expulsion from NAHJ. So on that final point, I think it should be the whole board.
Absolutely.
And then to Melissa's point, just want to add one thing that I think, hopefully will help. The national board has, the training that we went through at the retreat on what harassment is very helpful. And I think we should provide that for our chapters as well, like for the maybe chapter president or maybe the entire chapter, board. So on an annual basis, so that is clear, because no matter how many times you go through it, we need to make sure that we understand the many and varied forms of harassment. So if we can at some point also add that to part of the training for chapters, I think that would help as well.
I
That's
just
a good
want
point.
to add, can we create a special committee to attend and to tackle this harassment policy? Because in the same way that we did with the bylaws, for example, because I think this is a complicated issue and we should take more time to tackle it and to also gather feedback from the members. For example, I want to know how this will affect or how will this apply to the student chapters. And I would like to get the feedback of the student presidents, the student chapters presidents. So I don't know if it's possible to create maybe a special committee or some mechanism to attend this harassment policy and work with the language with more time.
Well, so forgive me, Luis. I just think that this is a good springboard and opportunity to do just that without having to formalize through a committee, because that would significantly slow down the process. And we as an organization have to work on being more nimble and responsive to things that come up. So what I would say is that I think if whatever the Roberts rules, whether we table this discussion right now or not, that the discussion that very much should continue over email, over the language. Julio, Cesar, and I can put something up that's a little bit more specific and then have the discussion there and then potentially vote and then present that to members. Because honestly, what we're defining is a process, not this is not a bylaw issue. This is an internal process for us and for our members. And I think for me, it's very clear, right? Like, one, the first warning comes from the student chapter president or the chapter president of the local chapter, and either both verbal and written, to say, look, this is harassment. And if you don't rescind this post, or if you don't leave this event, we will have you removed, or we will remove the post on our NAH channels. That is then forwarded to your regional director and to the president of the organization. Second step would be, if they indeed continue with that harassment, then at that point, Nora Lopez, the La Jefa, is going to step in and say, look, this is what's going to happen if you don't stop this, behavior. And we're going to remove, this is officially removed. We want to give people also the opportunity, and we'll add this in the language, Julio, if you think this is fine, to threaten to do it, but they have the option of rescinding the post or removing themselves from the situation. That way the onus is on that individual, person. And then finally, I actually think of streamlining this into 3 steps, and then it's a vote for membership removal. And membership removal can only be us, the national board.
The entire board. That is set already in our code of conduct.
Yeah.
Any, a removal of a member would have to come from the entire board.
Yeah.
That would be done in public.
Mhm.
And yes, it's a,
Right, and you out.
Exactly.
I think what maybe sometimes the chapter presidents or the, like Luis Joel was mentioning, is maybe that they probably don't realize or know that they have that power. I think a lot of us, maybe because we're older and we've been through stuff like this in newsrooms, we kind of know how to deal with it. We know, maybe we are clear on what is harassment, but maybe a younger student is not. So I can see where Luis Joel is coming from. I'll return back to the language, and just to be clear, when I first read it, the post removal to me is, and I see it this way, is if it's on an NHJ forum, like a Facebook page from the NHJ New Mexico, then yes, we can delete it ourselves if we consider that it's on that harassment
Delete
line.
with warning. That's the idea, is to be transparent in the process.
Right.
Is, look,
And
this
that's
violates our
what I
policies.
that's what I was trying to say before. That the language, and I understand what Julio Cesar is doing line by line, is when I see post removal, it could be post removal that we're going to remove it because it's on an NHJ property, let's call it. Or if it's on a personal, where we say, hey, Julio Cesar, your post that you're addressing to me on your Twitter is rude, or, you know, you're belittling me. So, but because it's his, I am acting, you know, I'm starting the action. Estoy tomando la acción de decirle, oye, te estás cruzando, pasando la raya y estás siendo grosero. And that's really what I'm trying to say. You know, when I read it, there's one side that if it's on our property, this is what we do. If it's a personal page, then we're issuing a warning and then when it says if applicable, you know, it's confusing. It should be clearly stated, you know, if it's a post on an NHA, you know, we have the power to delete it. If you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, hey, I'm deleting it because it crossed the line, then it needs to be just in the policy. That's all I'm trying to say, that the wording, once it's there, it's clear.
Okay, so I don't know mechanically how this works, but I would think that we continue this discussion over email, specifically on the language, and to add to that, Julio Cesar, if you're open to it, what I think Johnny and Yvette alluded to, which is to actually do an education campaign through our regional directors to our chapters and students as to what the policy says, and to do a quick, yeah.
I think that would be really, really good. One of just to go a little bit back to Luis Juarez's point, if I understand that you want to get more feedback into this, and that's good. But if we bring too many people into it, it's going to slow it way down, and it's going to make things a whole lot more complicated than they have to be. To that, I think that's our job as elected representatives. So, like, if you want to let Arelis and I know these are the issues that students face, we don't have to hear from the student leaders themselves. We really just have to hear from you, because, you know, that's like, either you can go back and ask them, like, hey, we're talking about this, can you, like, just, what are some of the issues that you guys are facing? The same with, you know, some of our regional representatives, or, you know, if anyone wants to bring up an issue, if a member wants to have a voice, like, there's the public comment portion of this meeting, but beyond that, I think the correct channel is let your appropriate representative on the board know, either, you know, the national board or your regional representative. That way we can get feedback in, but without getting too many cooks in the kitchen.
I'm not necessarily opposed to other members and joining, but I am concerned that then this lengthens the process. So to wrap this up, I think we're going to go ahead and table this for further discussion. We will continue to work it out via email on the language. And then once we can get an attorney to sign off on it and the entire board is comfortable with the language and the process that we are trying to put into place, then we can take it up for a vote. Depending on how long that takes, we can always try to do it via an email vote. If not, at our next meeting, which coincides with our virtual conference, and I believe is in, it's July the 17th. That's our next membership meeting. Agreed?
I think it's, yeah, and I think it, given that the conference, the next meeting will be at the conference, it's almost imperative to hopefully resolve this via email before then, I would think.
Okay, then everybody, this discussion will continue among the board and the motion is tabled for now. Moving along, Arelis.
Yeah, everyone, we're getting to the committee process, and most of anything before, like we outlined, you should have seen this in Nora's note to membership, outlining the different committees and the membership chairs. But this is really an opportunity for our members to get involved, to join us. We do not have a monopoly on good ideas by any means, and we really need your help to make NAHJ everything that it could be. There are plenty of opportunities that I'll outline here in the next couple of minutes for folks to join, to sign up, to get in touch with the various chairs. But that's, you know, our list doesn't preclude you all from forming task force on your own and proposing subcommittees to these existing committees. I want to explain the difference in the two committees that we have within NAHJ. The first one are board committees. Board committees are actually committees that are standing committees that are made completely of board members. And in the effort for transparency, today we're going to take a vote, I believe, Nora, on to confirm the chairs of two of the committees, including the Strategic Planning Committee. This is a committee that Yvette can talk about more in depth, but this is a committee that is essentially outlining what we want to see for the future for NAHJ, how we define our vision, our goals, how we get there. And there is some incredible movement on the Strategic Planning Committee that's already had a couple of meetings to do a one-day retreat with consultants, and Yvette again can talk more about that to sort of help NAHJ get on a secure footing for the next couple of years, so that we have some continuity over the next couple of years from board to board that that doesn't have to start off cold with a new board coming in, but actually has an outline to follow and can add on and you know, to their vision to make sure that NAHJ is progressing each year. And then we have the Rapid Response Committee, and we're going to nominate McNelly to chair that committee. It's already been at work, the Rapid Response Committee. This is merely a formality that is demanded by the bylaws. Rapid Response, just so the memberships are aware, is a committee of folks made up of board members specifically that respond rapidly to any issues that come up in the industry. There's been a number of them so far this year with Tegna and whatnot. So that is the group that gets in touch with newsroom leaders across the country when we think that our members are not getting the benefit or the best treatment in those situations. And they're the ones who are crafting, along with our communications team, the statements that go out on social media from NAHJ on talking about these things, such as the Minnesota police issues with the protests. So those are the two board committees. In addition to the board committees, there are advisory. There is one more, the finance, so that's also an internal board committee. Now that we have advisory committees, and those are the ones that we've outlined in the email that Nora sent out last night. Those include the Elections Committee, which is chaired by Julio, the Membership Committee and Bylaws, which I am chairing both of them. There's an Advisory Finance Committee that Kelly is chairing, the Student Committee, which is Luis's committee, as well as the Academic Committee chaired by Jessica. Both of them work very closely together to make that happen. And then we have the Hall of Fame committee, which is overviewing, I guess, nominations to our Hall of Fame, NAHJ, and Nelly is the chair of that as well. Like I said, these are advisory committees. These are not limited in any way. Members, we encourage you to take part and to help us do this work. If you have an idea or an issue that we are not addressing, please bring it to us and let's get this started. Let's have you form a subcommittee and find your way and give you the space to be able to make a difference within NAHJ. If you all have any more questions specific to any of these committees, you can email the chairs directly. Because this meeting has gone on for some time, I won't get into the specifics of each one, except for McNally, give her space to talk about the Data and Investigative Task Force, which is a new group that has started this year. So go ahead, McNally.
All right, briefly, because we've been here for too long now. So we decided to create this investigative and data task force, and Yvette, Christy, Jessica, and Luis, we all together are spearheading this. And after we had a meeting recently where about 20 members, including without including us, 4 of us, attended a 2-hour meeting. It was very eye-opening, and that all that information that we gathered led us to create 3 subcommittees. And the 3 subcommittees is, one committee is going to deal with management, because this task force was created to increase or create a pipeline that will allow more Latinos producing investigative data reporting, but also addressing the issues with management, because we don't have Latinos leading investigative teams, for example, and other middle management positions that are very important. So
we have you now, McNally. You're leading an investigative team, so.
Yeah, yes. And it was a Black woman who gave me that opportunity. And I have to say it, and it makes a difference when you have somebody of color in a powerful position, because they know that they see the potential and or they see the probabilities of growing potential, and they give you the opportunity. So I have to mention that, and I will always be grateful to that one. So, and now going back to the subcommittees. So I mentioned the management. I am super passionate about this. I think that this is a huge problem. I'm getting all kinds of responses on Twitter. By the way, people are DMing from other groups, because that's what I would love in the future that we can do after we come out all these subcommittees and we work together. The data and investigative journalism subcommittee, the management subcommittee, and then the academic subcommittee, that we can reach out to other groups, our brothers and sisters, in the LGBTQ groups, in, NAHJ, AHA, and we can create some pipeline, because I just, after 23 years in this business, I'm just, like somebody said in the meeting, we had a member said in the meeting, at the beginning and for many years, all I did was to do a good job. And I thought that by doing a good job and producing investigative is going to be enough. And now I just feel that that's not enough. I need to do something to help other generations that are coming after us so they can produce investigative reporting, be managers, do data reporting, data editors. We don't have. That's another area that I have just encountered recently, as we were trying to hire a data editor at Public Integrity. We know we have talent. We know we have talent, but we don't have a pipeline to find and create and grow that talent. So if you know anybody in you members, you guys want to get involved in any of these subcommittees, please reach out to me or reach out to Yvette or Christy, Luis Joel, and also Jessica. Because we already have the first meeting. We're gonna have a subcommittee meeting pretty soon on May 1st. That's the investigative and data subcommittee. And Yvette is already rallying up the troops with the management subcommittee. And I think that that's pretty much. If you have any questions or anything, reach out to me. I'm very available. I'm constantly talking to members every weekend and giving advice as much as I can. So reach out to me on Twitter.
Our rapid response team Slack channel is like, oh my God, keeps me on my toes.
For the purpose of minutes, I just need to clarify. It's the Data and Investigative Task Force, and there's 3 subcommittees: management, academic, and what was the other one?
Okay, the whole group is investigative and data journalism task force. Okay, and then we created 3 subcommittees. One is going to specifically focus on investigating and data reporting. Okay. The other subcommittee is going to be of management, and the last one is going to be, and not the least, by the way, because this one is very important, is the academic. And if I missed anything, Yvette, please chime in.
No, I needed clarification because I got it mixed up. Sorry.
No, I think you covered everything, McNelly, and I would say that the fact that the meeting went into 2 hours indicates how crucial this work is. I mean, definitely a lot of people are operating in their newsrooms as sometimes the only Latino or Latina on their investigative teams, and it's lonely work. And like you said, you know, a lot of people are willing to step up. So we are gonna sort of harness all that energy, that enthusiasm, that willingness to, you know, try to make some headway and finally move the needle on this. So thanks to the whole committee for doing this amazing work.
So I think apart from that, Nora, the only thing we have to do is to, I guess I'm terrible at Robert's rules, so you will have to forgive me, but we have to officially say.
I think we only have to officially approve the board committees.
Yeah,
board
strategic
committees.
planning and rapid response. So
and I think we can do it on a very simple yay or nay.
Voice vote. Okay.
Yeah,
So I guess
vote.
I make, yes.
One point, you mentioned the strategic planning committee, and just to give a little bit, if we have a moment before people take a vote, the committee met on April 10th to determine next steps for coming up with a strategic vision. And so one of the primary things we discussed is bringing in a consultant to work with the board to set out that vision. And so this is just the beginning of this process. The committee members are Nora, McNelly, Melissa, Jessica Retis, and who am I missing? I think I'm
Luis
missing
Joel.
Luis Joel, yes. And so we are looking to hold possibly like a one-day retreat this summer to have that session where we meet with a consultant to lay out that vision of, well, what do we see, for the next 5 years as far as what we want the organization to accomplish. So in the coming months, we are going to come up with a plan on, setting up an advisory committee, so that members can have that opportunity to tell us what they hope, can be the priorities. We had an amazing retreat where we discussed what we want to accomplish under Nora's term, and a lot of the issues that we're focusing on, getting more Latinos in management, getting more Latinas specifically in management, in leadership positions. All of those things would fit into that vision, but we need to, take that time to do that. So the committee will be meeting over the next couple months to work on selecting who that consultant will be, and we'll obviously communicate that with the board. But if anyone has any questions, just let me know.
And Yvette, if the membership committee, once it's codified and I've recruited members, would be happy to help in an advisory capacity in whatever form you guys need. So I guess I make a motion then to confirm Yvette as the chair of the Strategic Planning Board Committee. Is that how it works?
Sure.
All in favor say aye.
I second the motion.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. If there is no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? No opposition, Blanca. Carried unanimously.
And then the second motion would be for to confirm officially McNelly as the chair of the Rapid Response Board Committee.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion. McNelly is official chair of the Rapid Response Committee. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? Aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries without opposition. Thank you to everyone. I can't even begin to tell you, when I say you, I mean the members out there, how much work this board has been doing on your behalf, and just how passionate we are about the work that we're doing. I have relied heavily on every member of this board, and they have all responded just fantastically in pushing our agenda ahead. I'm so very proud of everybody on this board and how we're all in sync and on the same page about what we see as the role of NAHJ and the things that NAHJ can do to continue to foster more Latinos in news and more Latinos in power. So thank you to all of you. Before we head into our executive session to discuss a couple of personnel issues, I do wanted to open up the floor for a few minutes for any public comments.
Nora, is it okay if I say something quick while we wait for the public comments to roll in? With the elections committee, like Nora said, the board has been doing a lot of work. And this message is, both to the people on the board, the regional representatives on the board now, and anyone who may be watching this either live or the tape later on. If you want to be part of the board, the elections committee, or if you want to take part in shaping the elections or are going to be deciding the next regional representatives, please just shoot me a DM on Twitter to join the elections committee. I would like to put out the election guidelines in May. I'm not giving any promises to what week in May, but in May. So if you're on the board now and you're a regional representative and you're thinking of just running for re-election, you need to start making that decision now. If you're not on the board and you think that you would be a good regional representative, you need to start making that decision now. Or at least talk to people who you think would be good. And, because at the very least, more candidates means more ideas shared. And even if someone doesn't win, it doesn't mean that their ideas won't be carried through one way or another. So please, people, think of running for the regional board. And student rep is also up, right?
Yes, and I just wanted also to add I'm going to be very short, and I'm going to say it in Spanish. Tengo dos puntos importantes que mencionar, aprovechando la sección rápido, y es que he recibido mucha retroalimentación, feedback, de miembros estudiantiles y profesionales que nos han pedido que trabajemos alguna iniciativa para atender las necesidades de los afrolatinos y las afrolatinas, latinos y latinas que son negros y negras. Así que me gustaría que quizás en la próxima reunión que tengamos en verano podamos traer, si es posible, ideas para intentar atenderlo, porque es un tema importante, ¿no? En hablar sobre las intersecciones de lo que es ser latino y ser LGBTQ o ser negro o negra, porque es importante en la industria. Eso por un lado. Y por el otro lado, también quería mencionar, y esto sin mencionar ningún tipo de artículo o medio en particular, que como puertorriqueño me parece importante, sé que muchos boricuas en la Junta igual lo van a sentir así, quería exhortar a los periodistas y a las periodistas que escriban sobre Puerto Rico a que tengan cuidado con la manera en la que reseñan a la isla y que lo hagan siempre con un conocimiento al menos mínimo, histórico y social de lo que ocurre en Puerto Rico. Porque hubo una controversia reciente en la que se escribió un artículo de turismo con la mejor de las intenciones, seguramente, no con la intención de causar daño, pero quizás lo que ocurre en Estados Unidos, en el contexto de la pandemia, no es lo mismo que Puerto Rico. Creo que todos estábamos conscientes de la situación política de Puerto Rico, en que Puerto Rico es un territorio y es una colonia, así lo tengo que decir. Así que estos temas en particulares, cuando se trabajan o se mencionan, en muchas ocasiones abren heridas que son innecesarias para muchos puertorriqueños y puertorriqueñas, así que simplemente lo quería mencionar de manera de sugerencia porque me parece importante. No sé si me escucharon o si me fue la señal de momento.
No, we heard you, Luis, well, and a very important message.
Yeah, we heard you, and I have to chime in on that because I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and every time I see an article that is talking about Puerto Rico in the improper negative context, I take it personal because you're messing up with my people. Okay, this is my island, and this is an issue that we're having right now, what we've seen across the board, not having the voices, they have the experience, they have the expertise to talk about, you know, certain issues. And the same thing happened with Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria and everybody landed over there. You know, I see that happening here all the time with the Puerto Ricans communities and the vote here in Florida. You have no idea. You know, the things that I see written, they are completely misleading and false. So we all have a responsibility to call it out when these things happened, and try to be fair too. But Luis Joel, thank you for saying that.
Okay, any comments from our members? Sal, go ahead and unmute and give us your message.
I don't know if he can talk.
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Sal.
Buenas tardes from Miami. Espero que todos estén bien. And this is the question that I have today for you guys, that I would like to find out a little bit about the upcoming job fair that we are going to be having during the conference. If you guys can shed some light about, you know, if you have already commitments from recruiters that are going to be available this time. And I also want to highlight Jennifer Marcial Ocasio, whom I ran against during the elections. She has been a great supporter of mine during this past that I learned that my job in El Salvador is going to be finally terminated for the second time. So she's been able to actually be a great contact for me, providing leads in my case. And I also want to tell Arelis that I have experience with working in committees, and I will be more than happy to be of service to NAHJ if you guys need a helping hand. So for that, I want to thank you for having this meeting and for having this moment for me to be able to express myself about these questions. Thank you, Norita.
Gracias. I'm going to be calling you, Sal. I already have a job in mind.
Cuando tú quieras, anytime.
Alberto kind of gave us an update earlier in the meeting in regards to the convention, but I don't know if we can say anything more specifically to how the job fair is coming along.
No, there's nothing else. I mean, people are signing up. Job employers will do that. As soon as we get closer, we'll be sharing who's involved, but there's nothing new update. There usually isn't an update before this. So as we get closer, you'll be able to hear who's going to be there. It should be the usual subset so far.
All right, gracias, Alberto.
Okay. Thank you, Francisco, for your note. If there is nothing else, then I'd like to get a motion to move into executive session.
I second.
Blanca Arelis made the motion and Jessica seconded. Okay,
I'm noting
the board.
time. It's 2:19 Eastern.
And as a heads up to the members, we're not really expecting to vote on anything coming out of the executive session. So
We do not expect to have any actionable items coming out of executive session. So there really isn't a need for our members to stick around. It's purely informational and planning purposes. So with that, we will move into executive session. The board should have the link in your NAHJ email. I'll see you there.
Did we already voted? to be?
Oh, we didn't vote.
Oh,
Oh,
everybody in favor of moving to executive session?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay, see you in executive.
All right. Bye, guys.
Blanca, did you get that message I sent you clarifying that final member of the strategic planning committee? It's Christy, not Luis.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I saw that.
Okay, good. I just wanted it to be reflected correctly in the minutes. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. So it's McNally's. I mean, you're the chair, and then it's
McNally, Nora, Melissa, Christy, and Jessica.
okay. Oh God, this one was there's a lot of names this time around. I was like, oh God, what is that?
Are we all back?
Are we?
All right, so somebody has to make a motion to reopen the meeting?
No, you just declare it, Nora.
Just what?
You can just declare it. You're the chair. You're in charge.
All right. There was no actionable items coming out of our executive session. This meeting is adjourned.
Well, do we
No.
have to vote to adjourn?
No, the chair declares it adjourned.
So it is 3:26. Okay.
We're done, Arelis. You're late. I'm kidding.
When is our next meeting?
Our next meeting is July the 7th. But we have a lot of stuff in between, guys. We have so much stuff in between. Yvette, I don't think I've answered the doodle poll on our next meeting.
Don't worry, I knew we were going to get to that after the board meeting. So
Yeah,
no rush
so
forward.
I'll respond to that for my best time. And then we also have to pick up the baton on that the Latino leadership proposal that we're working on. I don't think you guys know about it, but we're working on a proposal that we want to pitch to Hearst, which is my company. And one of the reasons for it is because they've I want to kind of hold their feet to the fire. They've been, touting my presidency and how much they support. So I want them to put in some serious money. And so we've been working on a proposal for a Latina Leadership Institute that we're going to ask them for some major big bucks for. And we think it's actually a great idea and a great proposal. And if Hearst turns us down, we will pitch it to somebody else. But I thought I'd start off with them because I feel like it's the least they can do. So we're going there. So we've got that meeting, and not to mention rapid response. We've got the upcoming meeting with the Tegna CEO.
Are we still?
No, we're done. We had already done. I don't know why we're talking.
I know, but it's just his recording, so I just want to make sure that everything you're saying is just us.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
So all of that to say, I will see all of you in our various different committee roles between now and July 7th. Please keep an eye out on email as we try to hammer out the code of conduct. That is really, really urgent, guys. It's very urgent that we do something on that before our next.
Thank you guys for all the work you guys are doing. So, and I'll see you in Slack and in the meeting.
Todos. You guys are all amazing. Thank you.
Have a good
Bye,
one.
everyone. Thank